the aim of this video was to try to give some insight to people that aren't alcoholics into the way it is for an alcoholic. Several years ago, I was asked to be one of a group of speakers on a range of subjects in little small town New Zealand. And there were speakers on all sorts of different subjects, from artwork to overseas travels to any manner of things. And my topic was to talk about my recovery experience. Now, as it turned out, the speaking was to be done at the local pub or bar. If you're an American, I think it's more bar than pub. Anyway, it was a local drinking establishment, and I was all good with that. And so I spoke about my experiences, and one of the things I'd observed as the evening had gone on was that there were people there, a crowd of maybe 100, 150, and a number of them were sipping at their drinks or almost leaving their drinks. They'd have 3/4 of a glass of wine or beer or whatever, and they're quite comfortable with that. Now, as an alcoholic, I simply don't get that. I do not understand how anybody can have 1 or 2 drinks or 3/4 of a drink and comfortably leave it at that. And it's a thing I simply do not understand. I don't get it. And I can think of a range of comparisons around that. I don't have diabetes, but I know that diabetes exists. I know it impacts on people's lives. But I don't understand what it's like to be diabetic. And that's simply how it is. Now, with the alcohol dependent person, substance abuser, whatever you want to call it, when they get their first hit, they simply have to have more. And I did. And that's with the best of intentions at times. I think, well, I'm only going to have a dozen cans tonight, or I'm only going to have half a bottle of whiskey. And I would start out with the best of intentions to operate that way, but inevitably I would consume all of what was there, and then I would have to go and get some more, and absolutely driven to go and get more supplies. I didn't perceive it as a want, it was a need. And in the way that I operated, the only time I ever stopped drinking on any given night in the later years was once I was unconscious. Now, from the start, I drank to excess as a teenager. Tended to drink more heavily than the people around me, and engage in more stupidity, oddly enough. I remember getting absolutely drunk on rum and whiskey and whatever else on a Saturday night, and then on a Sunday morning I'd be drinking overproof rum, and that's how it was for me. It seems to me that somebody who doesn't have this makeup that I have can have a drink or two and be perfectly comfortable leaving it that, and be satisfied with just a few drinks. And they might get drunk occasionally, but it doesn't seem to be this obsessive need to consume to obliteration. And I don't understand that. I accept that for a lot of people watching this who don't have issues around their substance use, that it's perfectly natural and normal to have a few drinks or a drink, and to leave the rest of what's in the bottle or in the carton. For me and for people like me, that's just beyond my comprehension. My brothers, they can have a few drinks or 1 or 2 drinks and they're perfectly comfortable and happy and satisfied, and there's no issue. Uh, for me, if I was to have one, and as I used to drink, if I'd have one, that was just the start of the end of whatever was available, and the drive to go and get as much as it took for me to get totally off my face to the point of unconsciousness. So look, I'm prepared to concede that people with other conditions have whatever experiences come with those, and I accept that for a lot of people that you can take it or leave it, but that simply wasn't part of my makeup, and it isn't part of the makeup I've seen in the fellow people I've been in recovery with who abuse substances or are addicted to substances. And like in other areas of life, outside of those areas, people are people, but there seems to me to be this fundamental difference in what goes on once the addict gets the drug into them, and all the good intentions and all the decent, reasonable sort of thinking that people seem to apply to themselves after a drink or two, and people seem to be able to exercise good judgment after a couple of drinks, whereas for me, there was none of that. The good judgment was gone. Good intentions or not, good plans or not, that was history. And apart from numbing it out, the booze bypassed the brain. I think what can be useful for people is to be able to accept that that's how it is for the addict or for the person who abuses substances. Equally, for my part, I accept that there's a lot of people I know that can use substances in moderation, and I'll never quite understand that, but I do accept that that's how it is. And while I've endeavoured to give some insights into what it's like to be an addict in this video, I'm aware that the actual understanding but probably eludes people who don't have those issues, in the same way that I just don't understand how people can have a drink or two and leave it at that. Absolutely beyond me. However, I do accept that that is how it is. I hope this recording's been helpful for those of you that aren't substance abusers or addicts, and I hope it's also been useful for my fellow addicts in recovery to realise that while some people can take it or leave it, we're a group of people that just don't seem to be able to.